Jesse has a little bonus whiteboard for us today. And we're going to start. This is Mike Elko's 505 alignment. Is that right? Why do they call it 505?
Yeah, so this has, a couple names, but this has been coined, by Mike Elko as the 505 alignment. And the reason why it's called the 505 alignment is because you have 3 down defensive linemen. You have basically 2 defensive ends playing a 5 technique. So let me do some better stuff here. And get so we can draw some things. So this defensive end is in a 5 technique.
I'm going to put
this defensive end is in a 5 technique, and then the nose is straight up playing in a 0 technique. So when you have 3 down linemen, and each of them one of them is playing a 5, the other one's playing a 0, and then the outside defensive end is playing the 5. This is called a 505 alignment. And
all right.
So again, you have the 0 nose and 2 5 techniques with your defensive ends on the outside.
So why is this advantageous? Why the emphasis on this?
Yeah. So kind of first of all, it's an odd kind of presentation. You can mix and match a lot of different alignments off of it, and it's used mainly to kind of manipulate, the offensive protection schemes, because you don't necessarily know where is coming from where. This is a big – Mike Elko loves to run this on 3rd down. And what you're going to do is you can mask your intentions as a defense. You can overload alignments or get into some kind of bear alignments. And what I mean by overload is – let me see if I can grab this real quick. It's actually kind of annoying me. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so I'm going to move this circle. So again, these 3 guys are the basis of the defense, but everyone else around them, these linebackers are, they can be moved around. You can put them outside, the defensive ends. You can walk down another a linebacker down to the line. And now again, you have one side that's really overloaded with, 4 guys and maybe only, 2 offensive linemen. So again, it forces or it complements, a lot of different pressures that you can get out of this. You can stretch the protection by placing these edge rushers on the outside of the defensive ends, like I was talking about. This linebacker over here, this linebacker over here, and that gets really tricky because ultimately it forces guards to play like tackles, right? Because they have to. This left guard and this left tackle are going to be responsible for these 2 outside guys. So this left tackle is going to have to kick out hard. This left guard is going to have to kick out hard. And again, it forces that guard to kind of play more so as a tackle.
So that's, I guess, the biggest stress that it poses to the offensive line. Is that, or is there anything else?
That would be the biggest stress is kind of ranked in order here is, again, and this is going to be a big challenge for Notre Dame's inexperienced young offensive line. It's going to kind of confuse protection because you don't know where these guys are going to be coming from. Some of these linebackers could drop off into coverage and, maybe you only bring 2, but maybe you bring all 4 of them, right? Like you just don't know what's going to happen pre-snap. So again, for a Notre Dame offensive line that's young, this is something that I could see as a lot of, potential trouble. But how you negate this is you don't get into a lot of 3rd and longs. You make sure that you are, serviceable on 1st and 2nd down, get 2 to 3 yards, just no negative plays, stay ahead of the chains, and don't allow yourself to get into 3rd or long.
Are there kind of variations of this, I guess, that they run?
Yeah. So, this is a big 3rd down alignment for Mike Elko, but he has Mike Elko classifies this into 3 kind of packages. You have the hot, which means you're bringing all 6 of these guys. Let me get back into you're bringing all 6 of these guys up front, right? He has a warm package where you're only going to be bringing, potentially 4 of these guys in some sort of variation. And then he has a cold package where he's only going to bring the 505, the 3 guys down on the line of scrimmage. He's going to drop the rest or the 8 into coverage, right? So that's it. He has, and that's what makes it hard again, because pre-snap as the offensive line, you don't know if they're bringing 6, if they're going to bring 5, if they're going to bring 3. And again, those are all classified by Elko as hot, warm, and cold, depending on how many guys that he wants to bring.
So it's kind of like a zone blitz type package that he's throwing up there, basically.
Exactly. They are definitely going to play zone off of this. And again, another advantageous, I guess, aspect of this defense is these linebackers can blitz from anywhere, right? Like they could blitz off the edge. They could fold in and blitz in between this 5 technique and 0 technique. This linebacker over here and this linebacker here on the edge, they can play games and, stunt around. Like it is going to be a very tough situation if Notre Dame gets into 3rd and long and allows, Mike Elko to get into what he calls this 505 defense. And I think specifically, to kind of tie it all together, it allows Elko to match the situation and the specific field zone on 3rd down. He has, different packages that he can run onto this based on where they're at in the field, which hash they are on the field, and, essentially what kind of zone coverage they want to play out of it.
So if you're Riley Leonard, how are you countering any of this?
Yeah, I think the biggest counter, let me kind of undo some stuff right now because there's a ton of lines.
It's a very Madden-esque scribble fest that you have up there on the board.
Yeah, so I think that the ways you negate this just kind of off the bat is, right now you're lending with only 3 down linemen and playing 2 linebackers outside the defensive ends. Immediately you look at where's the hole. It's right in the heart or the middle of this defense, right? So I think if you can essentially find ways, to use some of that RPO and allow kind of that middle of the field to open, I think Notre Dame's going to have to run the ball with some success. And I think ultimately, Riley Leonard's legs is what can negate this style of defense, because when you're bringing pressure like this, anytime, as we've talked about before, anytime you bring pressure, you're going to create some open lanes. And I think it's got to be on Riley Leonard to find those open lanes and kind of in those RPO schemes know whether or not he needs to give the ball or take the ball, depending on what he's seeing out of those linebackers.
And that's part of what he has done so well in his career so far is being able to do some of that, find those running lanes and counter some of those different pressures.
But I guess my final thoughts on this is,
okay,
I would be really worried if I'm Notre Dame, knowing you have a true freshman at left tackle and they get into a 3rd and long and you're asking again, Knapp and the left guard here to really stretch out and fan out against, a defensive end and a linebacker who are going to be pinning their ears back and trying to get to the quarterback with no regard. Essentially, they're going to be coming fast and they're going to be coming hard.
Well, I mean, like we were talking about yesterday about what you do with the tight end if you're Notre Dame, just kind of in general. Do you slide a tight end over there?
Yeah,
to help out if it's 3rd and long, just to have an extra blocker over there, so you've got an extra body at least accounted for. But I mean, there's also, even though that's the backside, again, Emil Wagner is no more experienced over there on the right side either. Pressure can still come from the right, even though Riley Leonard's facing it.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to decide. Notre Dame's I like when Notre Dame comes out in 11 personnel and they split out their tight end, so it looks like right now what we're looking at, a 2x2 formation. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get the look that you like, you can just motion Evans down to attach to the line of scrimmage on either side, depending on where you see the hot pressure coming from. But again, that favors into this defense because it could look like they're coming in one direction, and they can, kind of bluff and bring pressure from a completely different direction. So this is something I would look for on Saturday. If Notre Dame gets into some 3rd and longs, you will definitely see this defensive front out of Texas A&M.
All right. Really good stuff on the bonus whiteboard. Love it.
I would love to see a quarterback draw against that thing, though. Just a 3rd and long, just nice QB draw right through the middle. Some people have mentioned it in the chat. I completely agree. That would be a huge way to kind of counteract this formation.
And and again, I think it's part of the chess match when you talk about Mike Elko's familiarity, Riley Leonard's familiarity, all those different things. It's just part of the chess match, I think, that you have in there. Who's countering who's who's like punching, who's counter punching, and all that different stuff. It's going to be part of the fun of the matchup.